Hello all, welcome to another episode of PubAd 101 by Reno Sir. Last class we have discussed till the portion of Simon's bounded rationality. So we will start with the another topics. We will finish off decision making today, and also we will try to complete the morale for public administration or morale of administration in India. That is the primary agenda of this class. So do like, share and subscribe. If you find this content, give us a thumbs up, and also do comment your questions. If you have any doubts regarding any of this content, or if you want further clarity, please comment us below. We will definitely come back to you. So let's start. We will start with the last. This is part 2. Remember previous topics, that is previous class, that is added in the description as well. Try to go through that also. So Lindblom's incremental model. This is more or less similar to the public policy, the ideas of public policy. So in this session, that is, as we said earlier or discussed earlier, that is public policy is more or less similar to decision making, or decision making has a connection with the public policy. So remember this, that is Lindblom's incremental model. We will learn again these same content in the public policy part as well, or the content of public policy as well. So Lindblom's incremental model. When it comes to Lindblom, that is Lindblom is suggesting a incremental type of idea. That is, he is mentioning that the idea of public administration is, or the policies or decisions is taken in a public policy, or decision is taken in within a public administration will be based on a step-by-step basis. That is, an incremental approach will be identified. That is the idea of Lindblom's incremental model. That is, in this chapter, that is in chapter 3, we are going to learn about Lindblom in a very limited manner. We will elaborate the entire content from incrementalism to analytical incrementalism, strategic incrementalism in the chapter public policy. That was chapter 10 of paper 1. We will learn it separately. So first idea, the incremental model of decision making. Decision makers always continues with the existing programs and policies with some modification. Remember this. This is a model for decision making where we identifies that, or where we identifies the decisions as an incremental approach, or the decisions are currently or generally made by the decision makers or policy makers on the basis of existing policies only. That is, there is an issue, there is no direct solution. That is, the primary idea is that instead of going for a direct solution, that is from issue to solution, an incremental approach will be taken. For example, consider MGNREGA. Consider MGNREGA. In the case of MGNREGA, we can say that in the MGNREGA process, the ideal solution, that is eliminate poverty and ensure output for or employment for all. Instead of that, we are going to go for we are going to identify a single structured theme. That is, we will start with a basic input, and as time progress we will move to the further, and ultimately we may reach at a solution. This is the concept of incremental approach. For example, welfare. Another example is welfare. The objective of Indian Constitution is to ensure welfare. In DPSP we have mentioned about welfare state. To achieve the welfare, we start with the basics. We will initiate the process. We will give the rights, and in the next year we will give certain other rights, then we will give another right, then another right, then another right, and ultimately, if time permits, we will reach to the conclusions. So in the incremental model, this is not about taking an actual decision, it is also about continuing with the decisions. That is how we are continuing with the decision. That is, we start with a basic point and we will eventually end up in a final solution. This is the idea of this incremental model. Remember this, just remember the basic idea, that is decision makers always continue with the existing programs. They do not want to implement a new program in the system, or they do not want to create a new system or different solution for a issue in hand. Instead, they will continue with the existing issues or existing solutions, and they will improve upon that, increment upon that. And we can say different examples. MGNREGA is an example, ICDS is an example, CDP, that is Community Development Program, is an example. You can add any of the Indian examples in this answers as well if there is a question on incremental model. We will learn separately about incremental model by the public policy or in the public policy chapter. So next is Etzioni's mixed scanning model. Etzioni's mixed scanning model. Remember these all are models. All these models will be learned separately in the chapter 10, that is public policy. We will learn separately in chapter 10. So mixed scanning model, it combines the elements of rational model and incremental model. For example, we can say in the rational model, in bounded rationality, or before that we have discussed about rational model completely, that is everything is understood by the system, or everything is understood by the thinkers or the decision makers, so that they will take the decisions in a complete rational way. But in the case of incremental model, we identified that instead of going for a rational type of decision making, we will go for a mixed type, that is incrementals will be given, that is instead of creating a new policy from scratch, we will increment the system. And when it comes to the next one, that is Eva Etzioni or Amitai Etzioni's mixed scanning model, it mentions that the rational model and the incremental model, all these components, that is the previous rational model and the idea, that is incremental model we have discussed earlier, that is by Lindblom, incremental model. In mixed scanning model, what they are going to do is they are going to mix a rational model with incremental model, rational model with incremental model, which means that the benefits of rational model will be there. At the same time, the challenges in rational model can be eliminated by the system. For example, in rational model, the major challenge was that we do not have enough capacity or enough mechanisms to evaluate the process. We do not have enough mechanisms to evaluate the conditions of or existing conditions completely. For example, we cannot predict COVID-like situations. We cannot predict what is happening to the system or what is going to happen to the system. We do not know the entire thing. So there are limitations in rational model. And in the incremental model, the issue is that most of the time incremental model will support only the mediocrity, that is they will continue with the existing processes alone. They are not interested in improving the condition, they are not interested in improving the solutions, or maximization is not observed in the incremental model. So Etzioni come up with a newer solution, that is he is trying to, or in this theory they are trying to mix rational and incremental model to bring mixed scanning. That is what they are going to do is that in the beginning the whole issue had to be addressed. That is, instead of incremental model, in the beginning they will approach with rational model the whole entire issue. For example, welfare. For example, another example is poverty. You should see the entire issue of poverty while making a decision. That is, beginning the whole issue had to be addressed, and later detailed scrutiny of smaller areas requiring urgent attention will be focused on. For example, consider poverty. We have different types of relative poverty is nothing but a relative deprivation. We have poverty in food, economic poverty, generally economic poverty is there, social poverty is there, different types of digital poverty is there, different poverties are there. So what they are going to do is that initially the entire issue, they need to address the entire issue. Initially they will address that, or they will identify that all these factors are there, all these reasons are there to enhance the poverty. So they will identify the issues, and after that, while making the policy, they will identify the critical regions or urgent attention. For example, in India, the critical issue in poverty is food. How to address the issue of food? For example, in National Food Security Act, we know that it is relative deprivation. It does not relates only to the poverty of food alone. We can say that there are multiple conditions, multiple ideas are there. So instead of just focusing on a single solution, we identified the entire issue, and after identifying the entire issue, we will focus on the critical issue. For example, food is there. For example, National Food Security Act. This is created entirely to address the issue of food, or the poverty related to the food poverty, or the deprivation of resources, food resources for an individual. That is, in this, remember this, in the mixed scanning model, initially the entire structure or entire issue is addressed, trying to address the entire issue, but after that, while making a decision, the critical issues will be given more importance. That is, more importance will be given to critical issues or urgent issues. This is why it is known as mixed scanning model. That is, it is a mix of rational model and incremental model, and they will also scan the entire issue. They will create an scanning the entire issue. They will scan the entire issue, and based on that scanning, they will identify the urgent locations or urgent conditions or issues that is to be addressed. After addressing that, they will go for further incrementations. That is, after addressing the urgent attention, for example, food is addressed. For example, everybody is getting food after NFSA. Consider everybody is getting food, or the issue of food security is resolved in India, then they will go to the other position. For example, economic issues, they will go for the digital issue. One by one we will tackle and resolve the issues. So it is mainly because unless the whole area is not seen, problem cannot be identified. The general assumption of mixed scanning model is that without addressing or identifying the entire issue, you cannot resolve the basic issues. That is the basic assumption or the general assumption of mixed scanning model. And also incremental model describes social innovation and issues are not static. That is, previously we have mentioned about incremental model. The general issue of incremental model is that incremental model proposes mediocrity. We can continue with the same. That is the idea of incremental model. This will not ensure innovations, development or changes in the output of economy or society. So in this situation, the Etzioni's model suggests that instead of directly going for a mediocrity or limiting the social innovation, we can go for a multiple approach. That is the idea mentioned here. Okay, you got it. If you have any doubts, please let me know. Next is Haskell draws optimal model. Again, this is also a model from public policy, but just remember this, we can evaluate or we can add the entire content from chapter 10 later. We will create content on that as well. Do follow this page for that. Do subscribe. Your subscription will be our encouragement. So do subscribe. So next one is Haskell draws optimal model. Haskell models optimal model. This is initially, again we are repeating the same idea. Initially we mentioned about a rational model, that is a completely rational model, which mentions that all activities can be evaluated by the public administrator or decision maker. Anything can be taken up by a decision maker. Anything can be evaluated by a decision maker. So that is rational model. In the optimal model, Dror mentions that it is superior to the entire thing, that is, it is superior to all existing normative models of decision making. He claims that optimal model to be a fusion of economically rational model and extra rational model. Just recollect what we have discussed earlier, that is, in the rational model they have mentioning an idea that anything can be evaluated by a decision maker or all information can be processed by a decision maker, but in reality it is not possible. So what Dror is doing is that they are trying to bring the rationality, that is, rational system is there, they are trying to bring rational model with extra rational, or we can say the values of the administrators or values of the system. This is actually a mixed model again, that is, it is mixing the rationality, that is, they want to bring up the cost benefit ratio, or they can ensure the cost benefit analysis. They will be evaluating the systems on the basis of cost benefit. At the same time, extra rationality will also be included in the system. Extra rational systems will also be included. So this is a mix of rational and extra rational model. It advocates that optimal model integrating and supplementing the strength of various model to at the same time avoiding the weaknesses. That is, they are introducing rationality along with the extra rational components so that the decision will be much more optimum, much more improved, or better outcomes can be created by mixing rationality and extra rational ideas. For example, we can give an example for this. Consider we are creating a new act. Consider National Food Securities Act. In this, what is economic benefit? That is, we are eliminating poverty. This is the output that we are trying to create. This is the output that we are trying to create. But the issue is that there is no return, there is no profit. When it comes to directly cost benefit analysis, we can say that there is no direct positive outcome in the economic sector, but we are including the values such as welfare, socialism, justice and similar values. When these values are included in a economically not beneficial system, we can create much more output. For example, if you are considering cost only, NFSA is not a viable project. If you are considering values only, we may be creating corruption and other issues. So we are bringing DBT and similar. For example, we can say targeted PDS, we can say accountability measures, we can say one ration card, one nation, one ration card system. All these system will be bringing rationality. That is, within an extra rational system, we are bringing rationality. This is optimal model by Yeheskel Dror. That is optimal model. Try to identify these with your examples. These examples will matter in your answers, especially in paper 2. You can write these answers. For example, NFSA is bringing both rational and extra rational authority. For example, extra rational ideas. For example, rationality, if you are considering rationality, we can say that rationality is brought by the system on the basis of bringing DBT, targeted PDS, Aadhaar based payment systems. All these things will be added in rationality. That is, we are improving the output. At the same time, value, what values we are bringing? Welfare, justice, equality, equity, etc. These values we are also bringing in the system. So this is a mix of both systems. Okay, hope it is clear to you. If you have any doubts, please let me know in comment box. Next one is tools to be used in decision making. Remember this, just remember the name. There is no specific need for all these content. There is no specific question still now, but try to remember these contents. Okay, so first one, when it comes to tools, we can have decision metrics. These are all our modern tools and methods. We will analyze the basic ones first, then we will go to the decision metrics, etc. So first one is SWOT diagram, then Pareto analysis and quantitative and qualitative analysis. These three are traditional or known to everyone. For example, SWOT analysis is nothing but strength, weakness, opportunities and threat. We will analyze the entire system from the point of strength, weakness, opportunities and threat. This is SWOT analysis. And Pareto analysis says that what benefit, Pareto's optimality. We will learn again these content, or we will learn this content again in public policy chapter 10. That is Pareto's optimality, that is optimum output. How optimum is an output? For example, the 80:20 rule will come under Pareto's analysis. And similarly, quantitative and qualitative analysis. Quantitative means how much benefit, cost benefit analysis, how much benefit quantitatively we are bringing into the system. At the same time, qualitative analysis, it will try to create a system where we will analyze the quality of the output. For example, instead of going for gross enrollment ratio, we will analyze the system, how much education is imparted to the individuals. For example, whether they are capable of giving a calculation of that class. For example, ACER report or ACER report in education suggests for a qualitative analysis of education. ACER report is an example for qualitative analysis. That is, these all are basic idea, and these all are, just remember the name: decision matrix, T-chart, decision tree and conjoint analysis. These all are modern methods. This is little bit computer enabled. For example, the technology enabled decision matrix we can say, T-chart we can say, decision tree we can say, conjoint analysis we can say. These all are a technology enabled system. These all are technology enabled systems. Just remember the name. We will evaluate further in the later classes. Okay, just remember these are the tools for decision makers. And what are the problems of decision making or problems of decisions? What are the issues that may be affecting the decisions? That is the major important idea we are going to discuss. What are the problems while making decisions? First one, when it comes to decision, the major issue is that most of the time the decisions are not taken in alliance with the data available. For example, the first issue is that, note this down, the first issue is that lack of data. Lack of data. The major issue is that lack of data. The major issue is that lack of data, which means that there is no general availability of data. For example, initially we have, for example, census, consider census. The last census is conducted in 2011. This is still pending or long pending for another 4 or 5 years, which means that we do not have a grassroots level data while making decisions. So, lack of data is an issue. Next one is processing the data. We do not have the capacity to process the data. For example, we have a large chunk of data, but the mechanisms or machines or the availability of information, or we can say the skill set available with the individuals who are working in the decision making sectors or the administration in itself do not have a capacity to evaluate the entire data or process the entire data. So, this is also another issue. How to process the data, that is also a major threat. How to process the data, that is also another major important issue. And third one is, it is behavioral issues from decision makers. Third one is behavioral issues from decision makers. What are the behavioral issues from decision makers? For example, corruption, it is a behavioral issue, or we can say the issue with motivation, morale, etc. There is no proper integration with the system. All these comes under behavioral issue. That is the proper leadership quality. All these should be addressed to ensure a proper data processing. While making decisions, we need to integrate with the multiple departments. For example, we can say the water department or water resource department should be integrating, or water authority should be integrated with the road department. We can say road development or PWD department should be integrated with the water authority. But what happens is that while decisions are made, they are making their decisions independently of the others. For example, one will be making the road, the other will be digging up the next day, because there is no integration. These all comes from the performance or behaviors of the organization. And finally, we can say there are structural issues. For example, bureaucracy. It is a very huge and large corporation or large enterprise, or we can say a large entity. Because of this, most of the time the decision will be taking a long time to take a decision, which is also known as red tapeism. The decision will be delayed, which is known as red tapeism, as suggested by Peter Drucker. This is suggested by red tapeism as suggested by Peter Drucker. Remember this name, we will learn all these in specific chapters. Peter Drucker is also suggesting that the government is suffering, the decisions cannot be made, or there is delay in decisions because of red tapeism. Red tapeism is another example. So, these all are the ideas related to. So, in the previous chapter we have, or previous class we have discussed about the basics of decisions and how the decisions are made and bounded rationality model, and today we have discussed about the basics, that is another theories such as Lindblom's model, then we have Erskine models and Etzioni's model, and also we have discussed about the various problems and tools. So, these are the first topics of your chapter 3, decision making. So, try to read these notes, or if you have a book and notes, try to go through that, revise the content and try to write PYQs. That is, your strategy should be writing PYQs regularly. Once you have completed the decision making, try to write PYQs on decision making. Do write it, and if you want any support on answer writing, do let me know in the Telegram channels or Telegram groups. We can discuss further on this. So, do follow us on social medias, YouTube and Telegram. We will give quality content for you. Thank you all. See you next time.